I've always been a fan of Dr. Phil for his excellent insights into human behavior. In 2019, he had a show on the search for a missing woman, and among the participants in the program was a so-called psychic detective, Pam Coronado. Dr. Phil apparently took Pam's observations and thoughts about the missing woman seriously. And this is disturbing to me because I'm convinced there's no such thing as a psychic detective. If psychic detectives were real, police departments would use them universally, but they do not. Wikipedia under psychic detective includes this quote: "Many police departments around the world have released official statements saying that they do not regard psychics as credible or useful on cases." If you're on the fence about psychic detectives, I highly recommend you read that Wikipedia article for a good overview. I think too many people accept paranormal claims simply because they're exciting to believe and TV programs present them as real. At any rate, I felt it important to refute the psychic detective belief system as false. I knew a detailed inquiry like investigating what crimes the psychic detective in fact actually solved, or did she really work for the FBI and so forth, would be beyond the scope of what I wanted to devote time to, but I knew that I could have a personal psychic reading done by Pam and could disprove her alleged abilities in that way. Here is that session, done over the phone. I live on the East Coast, she's on the West Coast. The clash between religion and the paranormal.
Is it okay to tape this? Is that,
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. I was wondering if I could ask you just sort of one general question, just out of curiosity. And that is, what is your attitude about Christianity?
Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up in a very, very strict Christian fundamentalist background.
Uh-huh.
My whole life, I was raised that way. So I've hung on to the belief systems that I really appreciate from Christianity, and I've let go of some of the some of the harsher aspects of it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
because it's I just don't swallow the whole thing. I just pick out the good stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you'd call it the psychic community or whatever you'd call it, is pretty open towards religious stuff, but the Bible itself is condemning.
Yeah, but religious, and I really, I yes and no, because if you think about all the prophets and the Bible and that kind of thing, I don't think that I don't think the Bible's against prophecy or people who actually have intuitive insight, that kind of stuff. But I think what they were trying to do was just warn people off of gypsies and charlatans and that kind of thing. Just like people are today. I actually think that's kind of what that's about.
Yeah.
Certainly the Bible supports various prophecies, but I don't think Pam's assessment of the Bible's opposition to psychics and mediums as mainly a warning against phony psychics and mediums is valid. The Bible regards them all as phony and dangerous. Leviticus 19:31, "Give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. Do not seek after them." Deuteronomy 18:10-12, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead, for all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. The passage says one who is a medium or a spiritist. It does not say who is a false medium or false spiritist. My father's death. I asked her if my father was upset at my not being there when he died. She predictably said no, and that I shouldn't feel guilty. And she predictably spoke in generalities.
So I told you that yesterday, correct? That, the more specific your questions, the more specific your answers will be. Let me just see if I can get a hold of him. Generally, that's not the case. Generally, but I'll look at it closer. Generally, they have a bigger view, so they sort of know what's going on.
Yeah. So I shouldn't feel guilty.
No, definitely not. No, they definitely don't hold those kinds of grudges. In fact, a lot of times they wait. People will hold vigil. The family will hold vigil, and people will take turns sitting there with them, so they're never alone. And then they wait till the last person ducks out to go get coffee, and then they die. Because sometimes I honestly believe they just want that privacy. They just want that privacy before they go. So I feel like they choose the time, and they choose sort of who they want to be there or not be there. Sometimes they're trying to spare us. They don't want us in there.
So she expressed an interesting insight about human nature, but she did not give me anything at all specific that would prove to me she's really in touch with my father or his energy.
Okay.
The woman in my life. Note that I've edited out a significant amount of time when Pam thought and hesitated and tried to come up with a helpful response. If I had left all that material in, a listener might well conclude, geez, all this hemming and hawing, she's just stalling till she can come up with something. But I disagree. I think it's important to allow an alleged psychic plenty of time to make a connection. And so I did not object to her halting pace or interrupt or pressure her at all to come up with an answer more quickly. My attitude was to allow as much time as she needs. Then, at the end, call her on the fact that she did not come up with anything valid, if that turns out to be the case.
The woman in my life, so trying to be specific here, should I have been so upset when I found out that she wasn't born where she said she was born? Because that became an issue.
Oh, really? Is she still in your life, or?
I would, if I had to say yes. I mean yes or no, I'd say yes.
Okay.
But not
now, what's her
actively.
name?
Nancy.
Oh, Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting question, but let me just tune into her real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Take your time.
Yeah, let me just get into her. If you don't mind, just don't tell me anything about her personality. But
okay, good.
If you don't mind telling me kind of her age, what she looks like.
Same age as me, 73.
Okay.
And what she looks, I don't know. I haven't seen her lately, so I don't know.
Okay. What color hair? And is she small or
light brown? 5'4".
All right. Nancy. I always try to tune into a person's personality. You can't really describe a person in one word, but usually there's something about them that jumps out at me. So, let's see. Yeah, she's got a strong side to her personality. She's definitely not a wilting flower kind of person.
Outgoing.
Well, I feel like she's she could be very nice and she could be very sweet and that, but she's also sort of definitely knows how to stick up for herself, and she's got that strong side of her personality.
That's true about her, though it seems to me that virtually everyone has a strong side to their personality. And Pam did not pick up anything on the uniquely introverted nature of this woman's strength.
She just reminds me of a woman who's been through a lot. She just doesn't take a lot of stuff. Once you get to a certain age, you just don't put up with stuff, you know?
Yeah.
She reminds me of that. Her deception about where she was born.
Yeah.
Was that something that she told you like early on?
Yeah, she told me.
Before she knew you well?
Yeah, the first night I met her, she told me.
Yes, because that's what I'm getting. Like, she was trying to make herself more interesting, and then as you got to know her more, then that
What does that mean?
that mistruth was hanging there.
Oh, the deception of the lie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because I felt like that was something she said early on, just because she was trying to be more interesting, or she was trying to impress you in whatever way.
Okay.
It was a harmless. It's like a guy lying about their age or something. You know what I mean?
I considered it not harmless.
If you were further down, if you were further into your relationship, then it would have been more of a deception. If you had established more of a relationship and she was telling you these kinds of things, that'd be different.
Yeah, but she maintained that claim for years.
Right. Yeah. That's what I mean. It hung in the air because now she's already said it. It's like lying about your age on the first date, and now you're stuck in that.
Because that's the big issue, is like honesty. So, I mean,
right.
I don't care really where she was born, but to lie about it, and I found out it wasn't true.
Yeah. I just think that she was just trying to make a favorable impression. She said it, and then she's stuck in it because
she said it.
Because she said it. Yeah. It was a deception, but it felt like a fairly white lie at the time, and then it grew. It grew. Yeah. Because she didn't know how to undo it.
A fairly light lie? I don't think so. Not if you know the context. There's a joke I heard. A man is arguing with his wife about breastfeeding. The husband is against it, and they're going back and forth arguing, and the man is coming off as a clueless curmudgeon. But then the guy finishes by saying, "I don't know, honey, I still think 15 is too old to be still breastfeeding Junior." That one element, the age factor, suddenly radically changes the perspective, does it not? Likewise with my situation. Should I have been upset at her claim of where she was born? I say yes. She claimed to have been born on another planet. Now, I regard myself as a very accommodating and understanding person. And even if she was mentally ill, a schizophrenic in some way, which she was, I liked her, to the extent that I was willing to accept her delusion as a positive one. She is here on this planet to help planet Earth, to do good things. Okay. But her planet was composed of all women, and there was another planet composed of all men, who had similar agents here on Earth, not to help us, but to hinder us. That would never be an acceptable delusion to me. Even a third grader knows that there is a problem here. This woman has something against men. This woman has issues. Pam did not pick up on any of this at all, but again just spoke in generalities. For example, who over 70 years of age has not been through a lot? I suppose there's such a thing as an uneventful life, but I doubt you could find anyone who would admit that their life has been uneventful.
I know one thing. She doesn't want to be judged or feel judged. That comes through pretty strong.
Yeah, that's true.
That's coming through pretty strong, that she does not like the idea of feeling judged or persecuted or something like that.
Yeah.
Pam is right about this woman not liking to be judged, and about her being a take-it-or-leave-it kind of person. She got that right. But again, these are generalities that can be applied ultimately to most people in some way.
Because my viewpoint is my judgment was correct. You shouldn't be dishonest. That's my viewpoint.
Right.
So she felt she could, just say stuff that isn't true, and that's fine. It wasn't like my interest in other women. I mean, was she... I don't know to what extent she was upset at my being interested in other women. Did that bother her?
I mean, that bothers every woman.
It didn't bother her. She didn't want to get married. She encouraged me to be interested in other women because members of her planet were not allowed to get married.
I don't get her being that. I don't get her being a super jealous type person. She's kind of more, you either pick me or you don't.
Yeah.
Pam got that right, except it wasn't so much a matter of picking her or not, but of accepting her as she is. There's the highway. You're the villain for not accepting me as I am.
Anything else you get on her? I mean, was she any, I don't know. See, I have trouble believing that you're able to, and there's an element of skepticism in me that you're actually in touch with, somehow, with this person and know about her. I mean, is there anything else you can tell me about her that would show, oh yeah, that's her? I mean, did she have I don't know, funny hair or whatever, some little detail that would tell me that's her?
Let me see. So I'm not in touch with, I'm not in touch with her. I'm reading her energy.
Oh. So what does her energy say? Does her energy say she's an outgoing ball of fire? Does it say she's very shy, or I don't know? I mean,
well, that's what I was alluding to in the very beginning, is she's got different parts of her personality, but she's definitely, and maybe it's just an age thing as she's developed, but she's sort of she just comes across as a strong woman to me, that she doesn't put up with a lot from people. She's a very much take it or leave it kind of person.
Yeah, but is there anything specific about her that you can tell me so I know, oh yeah, that's her?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
Okay.
My father's rigid personality.
He's harder to read. He's a lot harder to read than Nancy. Because I get a stoic personality. I don't know if stoic is the right word, but stiff. A little stiff.
So not outgoing.
Not outgoing, but just sort of a little rigid in the way he presents himself to me.
More so than Nancy.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get a feel for him, but I do get that sort of, and a lot of it's generational. It feels different because that generation was different, but there is a little bit of a rigid stiffness about his personality.
Pam is seriously wrong here in characterizing my father's personality versus Nancy's personality. My father was an outgoing, friendly, honest person, easy to read. Many people have remarked on how congenial and likable my father was. Nancy was a closed-off, introverted schizophrenic. Many people, like her roommates at college, have remarked on how unreadable she was. My mother as the glue of the family.
Okay, how about this? Was my mother disappointed in my academic performances compared to my sister and brother?
Okay, there we go.
I hope that's specific. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, your mother, not your father.
Yeah.
And her name?
Edith.
Edith. Okay. Well, she was definitely the one that held the family together. I see her being the glue, made everything work.
No, my mother was not the glue of the family who made everything work. Both my mother and father made everything work, together as equal partners, along with us kids, who also did our part.
Well, she loved you.
Hooray.
There's a lot more warmth and love there. You know what I mean? Like, less performance-based and more love-based. than your father. Not that your father didn't love you kids, but you know what I'm saying. Like, she's definitely more forgiving and unconditional and that kind of stuff.
No, that is incorrect. It may be that way in most families, but in ours, I would say my father was the more emotionally warm person. My mother, the more practical one. If you're new to the psychic industry, you should note that Pam is doing warm readings, expressing things that are true of most people or families anyway. Then, once she thinks you've confirmed her generality, she emphasizes it more, making it appear she's supernaturally insightful when she is in fact just expounding on typical human behavior. The lost item. I asked her about an item that my father lost many years ago. She said I needed to tell her what it was. I did, but she said she doesn't get anything on it.
Yeah, I'm not good finding objects, but finding an object from many, many, many years ago, probably not.
Yeah.
Unless it was a crime weapon or something. But yeah.
You don't get anything like what type of it was or anything like that?
No. No. I feel like, just to be honest, I feel like the testing is throwing me totally for a loop. Because I feel like, it's testing, and so it's just...
What's wrong with testing? Shouldn't testing be a priority? Shouldn't psychics welcome testing to confirm their alleged abilities?
Well, that's an important thing. See,
it is. What happens is then I start sort of shutting down because I'm like, okay. And then it's harder for me to receive because then I'm feeling defensive, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, if anything, I mean, if you can come up with anything with my deceased...
skepticism, and I get that you have skepticism, but it's hard for me. Like, I can't.
So there's no. Well, I mean, to put it bluntly, I would like some proof of the afterlife. So you can't get anything like that, right? I mean, I've talked to a couple of psychics before, and that's with the same question. And
right.
They kind of say there's no proof.
Medium. So mediumship. You're talking mediumship, and you're talking evidential. I mean, you definitely want to see an evidential medium.
You mean like a James Van Prague or somebody?
Yeah, evidential mediums are generally from the UK, and then they try to give you something that you will know without a shadow of a doubt. This was your relative or whoever. But like I said, for me, the skepticism's definitely sort of throwing me, because I'm not used to that. I'm not used to that. Other than cops, I'm really not used to that because most people that come to me aren't in that space.
So cops are skeptical also, right?
It's in a different way generally, but
because I watch. I don't know if you know this program, Joe Kenda, Homicide Detective. Did you ever watch that? Yeah, he's solved all kinds of murders, like 400 of them. And he goes through all the detail. I find it fascinating. So I mean, I believe in that, and I'm wondering now if you can do what you say you can do, then why doesn't he use you? Or I don't know. I mean, you say you work for the FBI, is that right? Right.
Well, I used to. Yeah.
Here's a reasonable question: if she worked for the FBI, why doesn't she still work for the FBI? If her abilities were significantly effective and helpful. I'm not saying a psychic detective's intuitions and investigative skills might not be very good, just that the paranormal aspect of it is baloney.
You probably would benefit from watching one of my shows or my new YouTube channel thing, so you get a better feel.
But the thing is, I can't... I would just like some specific information. And if I get that, like, what did my father do after he showered every time? I mean, if you say something like that, then yeah, that's my father. Or anything. I mean, just, otherwise, to me, it's like, well, it's just this guessing and generalities. I mean, the stuff you told me about the woman in my life there, it doesn't really match. I mean, to some, it matches that nobody wants to be judged. I mean, that's a generality, though.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is just not going to work for me because I'm so defensive right now. I'm probably just going to refund you because I feel like I can't give you what you're wanting. So it's sad. It's it's a bummer, but I just feel like I feel like the pushing for proof thing is just not. I don't know.
Isn't that the honest thing to do? I mean,
and I'm not trying to pull anything over on you. I'm not trying to. I know how I work.
Yeah.
And so there's just
When I push for information, then it doesn't work. But if I accept everything, then it does work. I don't know.
I mean, there's something to that. There's definitely something to that because it shuts me down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you could do it, then why? I don't understand why it would shut you down. God, I mean, it would be wonderful. I mean, wouldn't that be a great thing if people could have proof that there's an afterlife? I mean, that's what I would love to have.
Yeah, and you could definitely try a different medium who does a lot of evidential stuff.
Yeah.
You should definitely try somebody who does a lot of mediumship and evidential stuff.
But doesn't it make sense that if that actually worked, then everybody would it'd be proof of it by now. I mean, I would think this type of thing could be tested. If you could.
It's tested all the time.
Really? Like where? Like what?
So there's a lot of researchers out there that study mediumship and afterlife communication.
Like, can you give me a name?
I can email you some. References. Actually, I'll send you a lot of resources.
Okay, all right. And one thing I read was that some of these researchers, they go for a while, but then they just fade away instead of going for a while and then building momentum, and then the proof is finally in. Here we go. Here's the afterlife. I mean, I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's.
So, do you know anything? Have you ever heard of Bob Olson?
Yeah.
So he's been researching for 20 years.
Yeah.
Mediums.
Olson is not a scientist. He's very much a part of the psychic industry.
But that's not the one I'm thinking of.
My guess was that she was thinking of Dr. Gary Schwartz of the University of Arizona and his afterlife experiments.
It's the guy that's from the University of Arizona, and I can't think of his name.
Schwartz. Yeah, University of Arizona, yeah. Because I did a little research, yeah. So he's done research.
Yeah, he's done a lot of research.
Yeah, but it was all phony. This is all phony. He's so.
The Wikipedia entry on Gary Schwartz says, Schwartz's methods have prompted criticism from skeptics such as University of Oregon professor Ray Hyman, who says Professor Schwartz's research deviates from the accepted norms of scientific methodology, and criticizes Schwartz for research errors such as inappropriate statistical tests and using subjects predisposed to believe in psychic abilities.
I don't know him. I don't. If we're talking about the guy from the University of Arizona, I don't know him.
Yeah, but his program has stopped. It hasn't continued because nobody's able to replicate what he did. He did what he did because he didn't have good controls. That's my opinion.
Of the top psychics that he tested, including John Edward, it was Suzanne Northrop who scored the highest. As it happens, I had a personal session with Suzanne Northrop many years ago, and she proved herself to be a phony using the same clever techniques they all use. Remember, folks, mediumship is a craft that has been around for thousands of years, since biblical times. It was invented when the first con man met the first fool. Thank you, Mark Twain, for that insight.
And I would have been floored if you came up with something that would show that what you do is real, but it's not. It's not real. You're doing what so many people do, believing what you want to believe.
And it's the thing is, you're going to believe what you believe, and you're going to,
Not me. I'm going to believe the truth. I'm going to look for evidence. If it's probable, logical, I believe it. I mean, if somebody tells me they can fly, I'll say, well, I don't think so, but go ahead, show me. And if they show me, I'll say, wow, was I wrong? But if every single person says they can fly by flapping their arms, and every single time I try one, they can't, then I finally conclude, well, this is just people fooling themselves.
Right.
Well, that's my opinion. I was trying to keep an open mind, but...
Yeah, that's fine. But I am going to refund you, because this is just not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Okay, you take care.
Okay, thank you for the time.
All right.
Whatever. Yep, bye-bye.
Conclusion. This is not harmless stuff. Your tax money shouldn't be spent on phony detectives. I remember years ago in a neighboring town, the police used a psychic detective to try to find a boy missing from a public pool. I know the pool. I occasionally swam there myself when I was a kid. The psychic never found him. The boy is still missing today. Not only is it a waste of money, but it takes up the police department's time, following phony leads and allowing criminals more time to get away. As Joe Kenda says, time is critical. The more time that passes, the less likely the criminal is caught, as clues start to fade. Often murder cases involve family members, but if that's not the case, the police are wasting major time if they investigate family members under the psychic's advice, if the killer is in fact a random person. The Wikipedia article under psychic detective says, quote, "No psychic detective has ever been praised or given official recognition by the FBI or U.S. national news for solving a crime, preventing a crime, or finding a kidnapped victim or corpse." Former FBI analyst Clint Van Zandt has criticized the use of psychic detectives and has stated, quote, "What happens many times is that professed psychics allow themselves the benefit of 20/20 hindsight. After the case is solved, they make their previously vague predictions somehow fit the crime and the criminal. As I said in the intro, common sense tells me that if psychic detectives were legit, police departments would use them universally, but they do not. Van Zandt writes, quote, "If psychics were truly successful and if their results were not simply the consequence of trickery at worst, or good interviewing skills at best, then why don't law enforcement agencies have psychic detective squads, a real X-Files unit, or other ways to integrate these paranormal investigative capabilities?" I think some psychics are the scum of the earth, grief vultures as they are sometimes called. Now, Pam I don't think is in that category. She seemed very much like a decent person who sincerely believes in her ability, but the point of this video is that her belief system is really not true. She is fooling herself. If you want proof, Google this article on her by someone who was once on the fence about Pam, called "Sensing Bullshit: The Unpredictable Murders of Susanna Chase and Angela Lee." In a murder case here Pam worked on that was eventually solved, Pam turned out to be flat wrong on 7 of the 8 specific claims she made. The only one she got right was that the killer was approximately the victim's age. So, Dr. Phil, please don't give psychic detectives legitimacy by having them appear on your show. Unless, of course, you do it to expose them, which is a great idea for a new and rich direction for your show. Eh?